Today is episode 4 with Dr. B.
Welcome to the Harness Your ADHD Power podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
Hey, ADDers. I'm so glad that you can join me today for my 4th podcast episode. Today's episode is all about understanding procrastination as a symptom rather than the actual problem. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it. Procrastination is probably one of the most commonly cited problems that people have, whether they have ADHD or not. Can't get started, can't stay with it, can't finish it up, and perhaps all 3 at different times. If this is you and you've tried to solve it head on by trying to get rid of it, kind of like, just stop it. How's that working for you? Probably not so well. Seriously, I find that to really solve something, rather than just slap a Band-Aid on it, I first need to seek to understand it. People procrastinate for so many different reasons, yet I find that there's a common theme. Something is missing. Kind of like, if you could, you would. Go figure. And until that something is addressed, that part of you that's standing firm and holding back is not going to stand down. No way is that going to happen. That something that's missing could be a skill, a strategy, some support, your faith, or citing Professor Alfred Bandura, how about self-efficacy? Your confidence in your own ability to achieve the intended results. In other words, to get the job done effectively or well. Great. So where does this confidence come from anyway? I'm going to slow down here a little because this stuff is really important. Back in 1997, Bandura said that self-efficacy is different than confidence. He said that confidence is this vague term that refers to your strength of belief, but it doesn't necessarily say what your certainty is about. It'd be like you saying, I'm confident I can do that. And like Bandura, I'd have to ask you, what makes you believe that you can do that? I'd want to know the evidence or the behind-the-scenes knowing that you have that allows you to make that statement. I'd want to know where your confidence is coming from. What's the evidence? It could be that you just finished a course or training on that topic or that task, and you understand it so thoroughly, and that's why you can make the confidence statement. Or you're just saying that because you hope that you can do it, but you don't know with certainty that you have the skills or the necessary training, and hence you don't really know that you can. Or you might even know with certainty that you don't have the skills, but you still hope that you can do it. Hence fantasy or wishful thinking. Very, very common. The differences here are very important. Continuing on. Self-efficacy refers to both your capability level and your strength of belief in your capability level. To put it more simply, competence equals confidence. So if you know that you're competent and you have the skills and abilities to do something, then you can be confident that you can. Or you can hope that you can do something, which is false confidence, because you don't really know that you have the competence, the skills that you need, and so you might very well fail. I think the point here is that there is a very clear reason for our failures and our successes, which is great because it means that we can change what needs changing. We can gain the competence that we need when and where we need it, and we can increase our rate of successes tremendously. So the takeaway here on this is competence equals confidence. I'll be talking more about Bandura's work in future episodes and how what he researched relates directly to the challenges that we adults with ADHD have and what we can do and need to do to come out on top. Another reason for your procrastination could be your mindset. Whether we look to the decades of research of world-renowned Stanford University psychologist Carol S. Dweck, PhD, who wrote the book Mindset, or to E. James Rohn, who shared his message with over 5 million people all over the world. The importance of your mindset is a critical factor in your ability to be successful. Or, as Napoleon Hill said years ago, what the mind believes, it can achieve. And whether it's negative or positive, it can achieve it because it's not personal for your mind. It's just how things work. So there are many, many pieces to unwind here about the seemingly simple topic of procrastination. If you've been listening to any of my first 3 podcasts, you've heard me say that you are not what you do or don't do, that you are more than that. We are not defective or less than as people, as human beings. We're just wired differently. And the difference is actually pretty cool once you have a different perspective and the tools that you need for your own success. It's my hope that you'll get some of those resources here. And if you're stuck on the fact that you're labeled with a disease or a disorder, because that's how some of the societal structure works with differences, think again. You can think about ADHD or ADD any way that you want because you are the meaning maker of your life. You can make the meaning out of a diagnosis that there is something wrong with you, different about you than other people, and that this different is a bad thing. Or using the same facts, you can make a different meaning, one that you are different from other people and that difference is amazing, that you have the ability to do things and think in ways that others without your configuration of brain cannot. You might think that they can because you assume that everyone can do what you do and that you can't do some of the things that others can. If this is your thinking, I suggest that you reconsider. If you're a bright, creative, gifted adult with attention and follow-through and self-management challenges, you have so many wonderful gifts that are possibly being overshadowed by the current dysfunction you might be living with. And that dysfunction is a temporary inconvenience, not a life sentence. Again, once you learn what you have and how to work with it, the world becomes a very different place for you. One of the reasons that I started this podcast is to close the gap between what's known in the research and the academic circles and what gets out to all of you for your benefit. I worked as a researcher for roughly 5 years, and I learned a lot that my academic life didn't teach me. It's important that I share what I've learned over the course of my lifetime, because I don't want all this information just sitting around inside my head for my own benefit, when it could benefit you too. As I've said before, I firmly believe that no one should be left behind who wants a better life, especially when they're actively looking for help. And since you're here listening to me, I'm assuming that you're looking for answers and help to whatever it is that's holding you back or keeping you from the life that you want. Remember, we're all in this together, community thinking, for the highest good of all of us. And remember, I'm a work in progress just like you. I've learned a lot about how to make the most of my gifts and quiet my challenges, and I trust that you will too. Just so you know what's coming today, there's no more than 3 important points with relevant stories, an action step for you, and a favorite quote of mine. Through the stories that I'll be sharing with you today, we're going to take a look at what could be happening behind the scenes when you're procrastinating and what you can do about it. Remember, I said there's an action step, and that's for you. Because once you know what's going on, there's work to be done. You aren't off the hook here. Before I shift to the stories, I want to ask you something. By now you know how much I love to celebrate, especially if you've enjoyed my little course, The Magical Power of Wins. I want to know if you've started to take time to notice your daily wins, those little things that you used to overlook and think were no big deal and you didn't celebrate. Are you noticing, acknowledging, celebrating them yet? I sure hope so, because they will definitely shift your mindset and they can definitely change your life. And remember, if you only celebrate when something huge happens, That could mean that you are waiting a really, really long time in between celebrations, and that would be very, very sad. Life is for celebrating every day. There's at least one thing every single day that happens to each and every one of us that's a win, and you can learn to see it that way and celebrate too. Today's 3 important points are why you might be having difficulty getting started on a task and what you can do to get moving. Why you might have difficulty staying on task once you've started, citing boredom or some other reason, and what you can do to keep moving forward. And why you might have difficulty completing or finishing up a task, and what you can do about that.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast show notes, great free content from Dr. B, plus programs and services. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
Now back to being an adult with ADHD in today's world. You know, there's so much to do to run a personal life, let alone a business too. You know, I think of my personal life as the business of my personal life because it helps me to frame it in a much more effective way. As I said earlier, there are so many things that people procrastinate on. Filing taxes, going to sleep, waking up, cleaning up, getting organized, getting into or out of a relationship or a job, and more. You get the point. You know, you could work on trying to solve each and every one of these things separately for a very long time, or go deeper to the underlying issues so that you really understand the challenge and what you need to do to transform it. I'm going to share 3 stories with you today, as well as talk about your responsibility in this. That's right, your ability to respond, since you're not off the hook here. And I hope at least one of these stories is going to resonate with you and be of benefit. So let's keep going. Dana was a huge procrastinator. She procrastinated on just about anything and everything in her life. And she'd been doing this since she was a kid. As a kid, when her parents asked her or they told her to do something, she said, sure, in just a minute. And of course, that minute passed, and she didn't do what it was she said she would do. Most of Dana's procrastination challenges were about her getting started with a task or an assignment. It was like she was just sitting there, idling, waiting, and nothing was happening that was supposed to happen. She didn't know where the switch was that was supposed to get her into action, and no one else did either. You know, her parents would ask her if she knew what it was she was supposed to do and how it was that she was supposed to do it. They would even show her again and again what to do and how to do it, and still she wouldn't act. Her parents were so confused by her lack of action, and Dana was confused too. Plus, she was frustrated with herself because, of course, she knew what to do. Her parents had shown her lots of times. It was becoming a huge embarrassment to her. And as an adult, it hadn't gotten any better. She had lists and lists of things that she needed to do and wasn't getting started on whatever it was that needed doing. Why? If you relate to any of Dana's stories so far, and have difficulty getting started in spite of the fact that you say that you know what to do, and you say that you even know how to do it, yet you aren't doing it, there's more. Let's unpack this a little bit more. One possibility is that you really don't know how to get started. You might know or have a felt sense in your mind and in theory, yet when you go to implement the steps, it's like they get all jumbled up inside your mind and you just come to a screeching halt. Or the idea of getting started with something looks or feels so overwhelming to you that you just back away, even though you do know what to do and how to do it. It's your feelings that are shutting down your ability to act. Or you aren't certain that you'll be successful at whatever it is that you need to do. You look at what you've tried to start in the past and how poorly you did, and you base your decision to act or not on your history. Or you don't trust your decision to do this task and whether it'll work out or not, perhaps feeling insecure or having self-doubt. Those feelings are creeping in on you. You know, some of the common saboteurs that underlie procrastination are negative thinking, negative self-talk, fear of success, fear of failure, doubting yourself, people-pleasing, procrastination, perfectionism, and resisting change. Now, mind you, underneath each of these is an entire additional layer upon layer of things to unpack and understand about each and every one of these saboteurs. Keep breathing. As a place to start, I just wanted you to understand that it's not such a simple task to want to tackle your procrastination issues, and resolution is just a few steps away, because it's not. So if you've been beating yourself up emotionally because you still haven't solved this problem, please stop blaming yourself and have a little compassion for yourself instead. By now, I hope that you can see, as I do, that procrastination is a symptom of many, many other things that are going on besides just procrastination. So what can you do today as a step in the right direction to solve this and get started? I'm not going to leave you hanging, but there's just a couple more stories first, and then your action step. So stay tuned. Don's story is a little different than Dana's. He didn't have any trouble at all getting started. In fact, he got started on so many different things so easily and so quickly that he ended up with way too many things going on at the same time. Don's problem was that he could only get to a certain point in every one of his projects or tasks that he undertook, and then he stalled out. And since Don didn't understand why this was happening, and he wanted a sense of achievement, he thought that perhaps he just kept choosing the wrong kind of projects or tasks, and that if he could only find the right ones for him, success would be his. So his solution was to just start another task or project, hoping that he would find the one that he could actually take all the way. However, after years of this approach, all that Don had left was dozens and dozens of projects and tasks that were half done, and a very depressing place to be for him, for sure. You know, Don's family looked at what he was doing and they just didn't understand. To them, it seemed like he approached these tasks as if they weren't all that important to him because he just never went further than the early stages. Their interpretation couldn't have been further from the truth. And Don didn't even offer to hand off his tasks to someone else to take them further because he was just too embarrassed to do that. And so he suffered in silence. Again, many of the same saboteurs as Dana were problems for Don. Negative thinking, negative self-talk, fear of success, fear of failure, doubting himself, people-pleasing, perfectionism, and resisting change. Let's unpack this a little bit more. You know, one possibility is that you really don't know what to do once you really get into the task or the project and you're on the move. It's easy for you to get started because you just jump in. However, once you're in the process of the task or the project, you need to know the steps from the very beginning, the steps into the middle of the journey, and the steps of how it's going to move forward to the end point. As someone who freezes up in the middle and just jumps into the next project or task, you probably experience a lot of embarrassment, frustration, or even personal humiliation. Once you're in the middle of your task, you might be feeling a sense of overwhelm because it looks like there are so many different roads or so many different options to get you where you want to go, and you get confused or disoriented as to what to do next. Are you relating to this? Or are you feeling uncertain about your ability to keep going, to keep committed, and to do a good job? You know that you're great in the startup because that's your strength, but the long-term involvement just has never been your strong suit. You might even get bored once you stay with a project or a task that is too long for you. And that doesn't mean that you're off the hook here, just that this is an important piece of information for you to be aware of for now. Now, mind you, the challenge of procrastination in the middle is layered with just as many things to unpack and understand as procrastination at the beginning. Again, it's not such a simple task to say that you want to tackle your procrastination issues about derailing in the middle, because it's not. So what can you do today as a step in the right direction to solve this problem of keeping going and staying motivated once you've gone some of the distance? Again, I won't leave you hanging. Just one more story and then your action step. Jack and Jill had been best friends for years. Their relationship was built on helping each other to sort out their respective problems, which meant that Jack helped solve Jill's problems and Jill helped solve Jack's problems, because this approach made each of them feel really good, provided a sense of achievement for each of them, and they didn't get stuck in their own life challenges. What an arrangement. They were really, really good at seeing the solutions for each other's problems, just not for their own. And when they looked at their own, they got overwhelmed and they bailed. They each felt frustrated every single day when they looked at the list of things that they each needed to do and felt unable to go into action like they could if it was someone else's problem or task. They could look at the same kind of list for each other's issues and jump right in and get things handled, but not when it was for them. So they never made progress on their own goals or their own dreams. And maybe on a good day, when they could actually get started on some of their own goals and stay with them for a little while, they were never able to finish them up because they just couldn't see the entire sequence from start to finish, and these missing pieces shut them down. Both Jack and Jill found it easy to solve each other's problems because the emotional component wasn't there, meaning they didn't have the internal dialogue or the strong emotions or the strong feelings about each other's issues that they did about their own. It was the self-management aspect that was feeding into both Jack's and Jill's procrastination. Let's unpack this a little bit more. Both Jack and Jill needed a shift in mindset to be able to view their own life challenges as clearly as they viewed each other's. From their story, we know that both Jack and Jill already had good problem-solving skills. They just couldn't seem to apply those skills to their respective lives. They each needed to compare, side by side, beliefs that they had about what could be done about their friends' challenges and think of the same solutions for themselves, and then notice what resistance or obstacles arose when they wanted to embrace those same solutions for their life. This is one approach to becoming aware of the differences in perception of self-life and other life. We have to have a mindset that is both open and willing to make whatever changes are necessary to have what we say that we want after we can clearly see what those changes need to be. They also needed to be able to see all of the steps, the entire sequence of events from start to finish, so that they would know where and when to finish up. Because not being able to see all the steps hinders your ability to know when it's time to actually stop and say that you're finished. So what can you do today as a step in the right direction to solve this problem of finishing up or going the distance once you're fully engaged in a task or a project? Action steps are up next. It's your responsibility to get the information and training that you need. In other words, your ability to respond to your needs and to meet them. If you're like Dana and you have difficulty getting started, your action step has 3 parts. Focus. What is the very first step that you need to take to get started? Run it by someone that you trust to make sure that is indeed the very first step and there's nothing that comes before. Follow through. Be clear on all parts of this very first step and ask for support from a trusted friend to be your body double or accountability buddy and to make sure that you take that first step and to share it with them that you did. Self-management. Know that whatever feelings come up when you are about to take that first step and then you actually take it, that they will pass. It's your job to have ways to manage those feelings so that they don't stop you. One way to manage them is to look at the meaning that you're giving to them. If you're like Dawn and you have difficulty staying on course once you've started, your action step has 3 parts. Focus. What's happening once you get to the middle of your task or your project? Is it your thoughts or your feelings that are attempting to derail you? Follow through. If it's a lack of a clear map in the middle, get help mapping out the steps so that you can clearly see what's next. Self-management. If the thought or the feeling of boredom arises, it is your responsibility to find something interesting about the task or the project, a way to think or feel about it that keeps you excited, engaged, and motivated. If you're like Jack and Jill and have difficulty solving your own challenges while solving others' challenges are easy for you, your action step has 3 parts. Focus. What are the feelings or thoughts that are coming up when you consider doing for yourself what you would and could do for someone else? Follow through. See if you can get yourself to step up and do what you would do for someone else, and let the thoughts and feelings arise. Self-management. Have a plan in place, such as the support of a very good friend, depending on the severity, of course, of your thoughts and feelings, and receive support from your friend as you make your way through the steps to complete the task for yourself. A favorite quote for today. E. James Rohn said, "If you want things to change, you have to change." The question I have for you at this point of our journey together is, what things do you want to change, and what do you need to change about you so that the things can change and will change? I appreciate you showing up to listen today and in the future. New episodes are available once a week on Mondays at 12 noon Pacific Time. I'll be talking about such compelling topics as perfectionism, analysis paralysis, making friends, managing yourself within time, and more hot topics, as well as lining up guests to bring more great insights to you. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and keep coming back. In fact, if you received value today, please rate the show and write a thoughtful review on iTunes so I know that I'm meeting your needs. It means a lot to me to know that your life is getting better a little bit at a time every time we get together. Remember to subscribe so that you receive every new episode as soon as it's available. And then be sure to get over to my website to get your show notes and learn about other services, of course, if that's of interest to you. Thanks for listening. Until the next time. Bye.
Thanks for your undivided attention. If you're hungry to make positive changes in your life, head over to drbarbaracohen.com and see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love making changes with one-to-one attention and community support, or on your own with self-study, or could benefit from coaching or psychotherapy, you'll find all the information right there at drbarbaracohen.com.